Have you ever looked around at your old friends, neighbors, or even loved ones, and quietly wondered, why do some people seem to fade so suddenly after retirement, slipping away before 82, despite looking perfectly fine just a few years earlier? No major illness, no dramatic incident, just a slow, quiet unraveling. If that thought has ever crossed your mind, you're not alone, and you're not imagining it. As someone who's spent over 3 decades working with older adults, I've seen this invisible pattern far too often. The medical charts may look normal, hearts beating, labs are steady, but something vital is missing beneath the surface. It's not just about diet or medication or whether you take your morning walk. It's about a deeper loss, one we rarely speak of, one that steals more than just years. It quietly steals your spark. You see, the real danger isn't always what shows up in a scan. It's what disappears from within. And while many have been led to believe that this part of life should be left behind with youth, the truth is far more powerful and far more hopeful. Today, I want to gently take your hand and show you something most doctors overlook. A hidden, often misunderstood part of health that could hold the key to staying sharp, strong, and deeply alive well into your 80s and beyond. You don't need fancy treatments or exhausting routines. What you need is already inside you, waiting. So if you're ready to look at aging through a different lens, one filled with purpose, dignity, and possibility, stay with me. What we're about to uncover might just change everything you thought you knew about growing older. 1. When you lose touch with yourself. I've sat across from countless older adults, men and women in their 70s and 80s, whose eyes carry a certain stillness, not sadness exactly, but something quieter, a dimming. It's not the wrinkles or the slowed movements that reveal the deepest change. It's that silent ache of having drifted too far from something vital. Over the years, I've come to recognize this pattern, a gentle but devastating disconnection from physical pleasure, from the simple joy of touch, closeness, and feeling alive in one's own skin. This is rarely talked about out loud. No one gathers over coffee to say, I miss the warmth of my own body, or I don't feel desire the way I used to. And it scares me. But I've heard it in quiet conversations, in tearful confessions, and in the hollow silence that follows when someone says, I guess that part of life is over for me. And here's what breaks my heart. It's not because it has to be that way. It's because they've been told it should be. Somewhere along the path of growing older, society planted a cruel idea in our minds that intimacy belongs only to the young, that passion and sensuality have an expiration date. And many, without realizing it, began to believe it. They pulled away not because they stopped needing touch or joy or connection, but because they thought they weren't supposed to want those things anymore. Shame crept in, silence took root, and slowly, the body responded to that silence. When we stop engaging with pleasure, something begins to shift, not just emotionally, but biologically. Blood flow reduces to areas that once thrived on warmth and sensation. Hormones shift, not because of age alone, but because the systems that regulate them are no longer being activated. Neural pathways tied to desire and satisfaction start to go quiet, like an old piano left untouched. The keys begin to stiffen. What follows isn't always obvious at first. A little more fatigue in the morning, a little less joy in the day, a growing sense of isolation. Then comes the trouble sleeping, the forgetfulness, the creeping sense that life feels a bit more faded, even when nothing's really changed. I've seen it again and again, how this loss of connection to our own bodies slowly ripples into deeper health issues, heart problems, depression, cognitive decline, and not because of age, but because something essential was put aside and forgotten. The truth is, physical pleasure, whether shared with someone else or rediscovered alone, is not a luxury. It is a form of nourishment. It keeps the brain sharp, the heart open, the spirit resilient. It grounds us in the present. It reminds us we are still here, still feeling, still capable of joy. And no matter your age, that connection is not gone. It might be quiet or hesitant or buried under years of self-doubt, but it is not gone. What if I told you that reawakening this part of yourself could do more for your vitality than any supplement or routine? What if the path to better sleep, a stronger immune system, and even emotional healing started with something as human, as timeless, as sacred as pleasure? It's never too late to come home to your body, to touch your own hand and feel warmth instead of indifference, to move without apology, to laugh in intimacy again. You haven't outgrown this part of yourself. You've simply been too strong for too long to admit you missed it. If any part of this is speaking to you, if something inside you is stirring right now, I invite you to pause and acknowledge it. You don't have to type anything fancy, just the number 1 in the comments. A small sign that you're still curious, still alive, still open to rediscovering what it means to be fully, beautifully human. Now, if you're ready, let's continue. Because what you'll learn in point number 2 may change the way you think about health and aging forever. 2. The hidden key inside you. After 60, over the years, I've witnessed something quietly extraordinary in my work with older adults. Men and women in their 60s, 70s, even into their 80s. Some seem to grow more vibrant with time, more at ease in their own skin, more emotionally balanced and physically resilient. When I looked closer, I found a common thread running through many of their lives. They hadn't given up on physical pleasure. More specifically, they hadn't turned their backs on the private, deeply personal act of self-intimacy. And yes, I'm speaking about masturbation. Now, I know this may sound surprising, even uncomfortable, especially if you grew up in a time when such things were never spoken of openly, let alone encouraged in older age. But the truth is, biology does not follow shame. It follows flow, function, and connection. And after the age of 60, when the body naturally begins to slow down, circulation dips, hormone levels shift, muscle tone declines, this form of physical engagement becomes more than just pleasurable. It becomes essential. When someone over 60 continues to nurture their body through touch and sensation, remarkable things begin to happen. Blood flow increases not only to the genitals, but to the heart, brain, and limbs, feeding tissues that might otherwise become stagnant. Gentle stimulation awakens dormant nerve endings. Endorphins, those feel-good hormones, rush in to soothe the nervous system and lift the mood. Sleep improves, stress lessens, and testosterone, even in small boosts, supports muscle preservation, bone strength, and emotional steadiness, especially in men, but also in women. But beyond the physical, something even more powerful unfolds in the brain. Neuroscientific research shows that sexual pleasure lights up multiple regions of the mind, those tied to memory, decision-making, emotional balance, even creativity. It's like giving your brain a warm, nourishing workout. I've seen it in people like Mr. Bennett, a 76-year-old widower who once told me he felt like his world was getting smaller and dimmer. After learning to reconnect with himself not through fantasy or urgency, but through simple, mindful self-touch, he noticed something shift. His thoughts felt clearer. He laughed more. He began joining his neighbors for coffee again, started taking walks. Life, he said, began to feel like it had color again. And that's the heart of it. This isn't about performance. It's not about trying to replicate the past or chase something lost. It's about presence. It's about staying connected to your own body as a source of warmth, comfort, vitality, and yes, pleasure. Because when you treat yourself as someone still worthy of joy, you start to believe it. And when you believe it, you carry yourself differently. You eat better. You sleep better. You show up to life more fully. The ripple effect is real. I understand that for many, this may not come easily. Years of silence, fear, grief, or shame can make the idea of touching your own body feel strange, even foreign. But the beautiful truth is this: your body hasn't given up on you. It's simply waiting for you to return to it, with patience, with kindness, with a willingness to explore again, not for perfection, but for connection. So when people ask me, is it really okay to still do this at my age? I smile gently and tell them, it's not just okay, it's good for you. Not because it fixes everything, but because it opens the door to better health, to deeper self-respect, to the kind of vitality that doesn't come from youth, but from presence. Now, if all this is true, and it is, why do so many seniors still feel unsure or hesitant about embracing this part of their lives? Why does something so natural remain clouded by confusion and guilt? The answers may surprise you, and in the next section, we'll uncover the quiet myths and painful misunderstandings that have kept far too many good people from experiencing something that could change everything. 3. the lies that quietly weaken you. Over the course of my career, I've met so many older adults who were once full of life, curious, expressive, joyful, only to see that spark quietly dim over time, not because of illness, not because of any dramatic change, but because of certain beliefs they unknowingly carried deep within them, beliefs that seemed small, almost harmless at first, yet slowly drained away their energy, their joy, and their sense of connection with themselves. These weren't physical conditions. They were silent misconceptions, and they can have more power over the aging process than most people ever realize. One of the most heartbreaking of these beliefs is the idea that after a certain age, physical pleasure simply stops mattering. I can't tell you how many times I've heard someone say with a quiet laugh, "I'm too old for all that now." But beneath the chuckle is often a deep sense of resignation, like they've made peace with giving up a part of themselves that once made them feel vibrant and fully alive. The truth is, your need for closeness, touch, and sensual comfort doesn't disappear with age. It simply evolves. Giving up on it isn't a sign of wisdom. It's a loss of color, of emotional depth, of connection to your own body. Living without it is like staying in a beautiful home, but never turning on the lights. You're surviving, yes, but missing out on so much warmth in life. Another painful myth that lingers, especially for those who grew up in more conservative times, is the belief that seeking pleasure alone is somehow wrong or shameful. Many people still carry the voices of their upbringing, voices that whispered that self-touch was sinful or inappropriate. But here's what I want to say. Gently, yet clearly, honoring your own body is not shameful. It is a profound act of self-respect. You are not broken for wanting to feel alive in your skin. You are not selfish for wanting comfort and pleasure. You are simply human. And allowing yourself that connection can be one of the most healing things you ever do. Then there's the belief that saving or suppressing sexual energy somehow strengthens the body. I understand where this comes from. There's a long history of spiritual and cultural teachings that promote this idea. But from a biological standpoint, the opposite is true. Just like your muscles weaken without use, so do the systems in your body responsible for pleasure, intimacy, and vitality. Regular sexual expression, whether shared with someone or experienced alone, helps stimulate blood flow, support hormone production, and keep tissue healthy and responsive. It's not about frequency or performance, it's about maintaining life force. When these areas are ignored, they begin to fade. But when nurtured, even gently, they help keep the whole body more balanced and alive. And perhaps the most damaging misconception of all is the idea that your sexual health is separate from your overall well-being. In truth, they are deeply interwoven. When you reconnect with this part of yourself, your sleep improves, your mood lifts, your circulation strengthens, your cognitive health benefits. This isn't wishful thinking, it's supported by science. And it's been confirmed over and over by the real experiences of people I've had the privilege to walk beside, like Eleanor, a 73-year-old woman who once told me, "I didn't realize how much I'd shut myself off until I opened the door again." For her, that moment of rediscovery sparked a cascade of changes: better eating habits, morning walks, laughter she hadn't felt in years. Recognizing these myths is the first step toward reclaiming the vibrant, joyful life that still belongs to you. But awareness alone isn't enough. What you need now is a gentle, empowering way to reconnect with your body, not through pressure or expectation, but through curiosity, patience, and grace. And that's exactly where we're going next. If any of this has touched something within you, if you felt seen or perhaps inspired, I invite you to share a quiet one in the comments. It lets me know you're walking this path alongside me. Now, let's move forward together and discover what's waiting for you in point number 4. 4, coming home to your body. When I first began guiding older adults back to a sense of connection with their own bodies, one thing became crystal clear: encouragement alone wasn't enough. What they needed wasn't just hope, they needed a map, a gentle, respectful, step-by-step path that honored the realities of aging while reminding them that their bodies, even now, still hold beauty, wisdom, and vitality. That's how the restoration method was born. Not as a miracle cure, not as a fix, but as an invitation to return home to yourself, slowly and kindly. The journey begins with something deceptively simple: preparation. Before any movement, before any touch, You must create a space that feels truly yours, a space that whispers safety, comfort, and presence. Maybe it's your favorite armchair. Maybe it's a quiet bed with the softest blanket you own. Adjust the lighting, warm the room. Keep a high-quality lubricant nearby, not as a necessity, but as a symbol of care. These small gestures speak volumes. They say, I matter. My well-being is worth tending to. Once the space is ready, the next step is relaxation. Let go of all pressure, all timelines. This isn't a task to accomplish, it's a gift to receive. Begin with slow, deep breaths. Feel your shoulders drop, your hands soften, your jaw unclench. Imagine tension flowing out of you, like water down a stream. This quieting of the body makes room for awareness, for sensation, and for healing. Then, with no expectations, enter the phase of awakening. Begin to gently explore parts of your body you may not have truly touched or noticed in years. The inner thighs, the soft curve of the belly, the chest. Let your fingers linger, not to provoke, but to reconnect. Approach your body as you would a long-lost friend, curious, tender, and open. Don't judge how you respond. Don't compare this moment to anything that came before. Just notice. That's all. Even the smallest flicker of response, a tingle, a warmth, a sigh is your body's way of saying, I remember this. As you grow more comfortable, you can move into focused stimulation. This doesn't mean rushing toward arousal or any particular result. In fact, the beauty of this stage lies in its slowness. Allow touch to build gradually. Let your body lead the pace. Use slow, deliberate movements not to chase intensity, but to deepen presence. This is not about recreating youth. It's about creating now. Often, seniors find this pace brings a richness of sensation that they never fully experienced even in their younger years. Finally, arrive at integration. This is perhaps the most overlooked and most profound step. When your body has responded, even just a little pause, rest your hands, breathe deeply, and offer yourself quiet gratitude for showing up, for being brave enough to explore, for choosing connection instead of resignation. It's in this gentle closure that something new begins to grow, a soft, enduring sense of aliveness that spills over into every part of your day. The restoration method isn't about reaching some goal or rekindling the past. It's about embracing the person you are today with tenderness, patience, and reverence for all you've lived through. And once you've felt even a moment of that reconnection, something shifts. You begin to walk differently, think differently, love yourself a little more fully. But let me be honest, this journey, while deeply rewarding, isn't always smooth. Even with a clear method, many seniors unintentionally fall into patterns that stall their progress or leave them discouraged. In the next part, I'll walk you through the most common pitfalls and show you exactly how to avoid them so you can continue on this path with confidence, grace, and a heart wide open to everything that's still possible. 5. The inner obstacles that hold you back. Whenever I walk alongside someone through the restoration method, I always remind them of one truth that is both humbling and hopeful. Real transformation is rarely a straight line. It doesn't unfold in perfect steps or tidy milestones. It ebbs and flows. Some days feel like progress. Others feel like stillness, and that's okay. The most powerful growth often happens quietly, beneath the surface, in moments when it would have been easier to give up, but you didn't. One of the first challenges many older adults encounter is unrealistic expectations. After decades of living, it's natural to crave the intensity or ease we may have once known in our youth. So when we begin doing the work, creating space, touching the body, cultivating presence, it's understandable to hope that something big and immediate will happen. But when that doesn't occur right away, disappointment can quietly settle in. You might wonder, am I broken? The answer is no, not even close. The truth is, your body isn't failing you. It's simply moving at the pace of now. Healing doesn't look like a firework. It often begins like a spark. The first signs of reconnection might be subtle, a sense of warmth, a softened breath, a moment of peace you hadn't felt in years, and those are victories. Success isn't measured by reaching a particular peak. It's measured by how fully you begin to feel again, safely, gently, and with presence. Another common obstacle is inconsistency. It's easy to approach this journey with enthusiasm at first, only to let it fade into the background when life gets busy or your mood isn't quite right. But think of your body like a beloved garden. If you only water it when the rain comes or the sun shines just right, it may survive, but it will never bloom. The same is true for your sensual self. This isn't about forcing a schedule. It's about choosing 2 or 3 times a week to say, I'm worth this time, not out of obligation, but out of respect. The body responds to kindness in ways that will often surprise you quietly, steadily, and with grace. Then there's performance pressure. Even in solitude, many carry the weight of an invisible standard, the idea that pleasure should unfold a certain way or reach a specific outcome. But the more you chase it, the more it slips away. That pressure tightens muscles, narrows breath, and pulls you out of the very moment you're trying to experience. What if, instead, you allowed pleasure to unfold on its own terms? What if you celebrated sensation, not intensity, but intimacy? When you release the need for any specific result, you open yourself to the full depth of what's possible. Even the softest sigh, the gentlest wave, becomes sacred when received with openness. And perhaps the most tender challenge of all is shame. For many, this voice hides quietly in the background. I shouldn't need this. It whispers, this part of me is too old. But I want you to hear this clearly. There is nothing inappropriate about caring for your body. There is nothing foolish about wanting to feel alive. These aren't signs of weakness. They're signs of your continued humanity. When that old voice rises up, meet it not with guilt, but with gentleness. Thank it for trying to protect you. Then tell it kindly that you've chosen a different path. Now, a path of courage, self-respect, and reconnection. These challenges are real, but so is your strength. Each moment you choose to keep going, even if it's small, even if it's quiet, adds another layer to your resilience. Over time, this isn't just about sensual vitality, it's about the full restoration of your energy, your confidence, and your joy in living. And in the next part, I'll share with you what might be the most powerful shift you've ever experienced, something designed specifically for this extraordinary chapter of your life. So take a breath and stay with me. You're closer than you think. As we close this journey together, I hope one truth echoes in your heart, your body, your joy, and your capacity for vitality do not fade simply because the years have passed. They may shift, they may soften, but they never vanish. What you carry within you now is not a remnant of who you were, but a powerful reflection of all you've endured, all you've learned, and all you still deserve to feel. I've witnessed people in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s rediscover a spark they thought was gone for good. And that spark didn't just bring pleasure, it brought purpose, energy, laughter, and light. You deserve that same renewal. It all begins with one quiet decision to believe you're still worth the effort. Start gently, be kind with yourself, and remember every small step you take toward reconnecting with your body is a step toward a more vibrant, fulfilling life. If this message touched you, share your voice below with a simple, still here. And if you'd like to keep growing with us, just tap subscribe so you never miss what comes next. Your next chapter is waiting, and it's one worth living fully.